Hello, we're our Lives channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most emotional and dramatic storylines currently unfolding in Salem. The unexpected pregnancy revelation that has left Sarah Horton completely shocked, and how she's choosing to accept all of Xander's lies just so their second baby can have both parents in their lives. The recent Salem blackout has created unexpected consequences that nobody could have predicted. And now Sarah and Xander find themselves at a critical crossroads that will determine the future of their entire family. What started as a temporary power outage has transformed into a life-changing event that could either bring this fractured couple back together or tear them apart forever. The blackout that changed everything. When Salem plunged into darkness during that fateful night, Sarah Horton and Xander Kyriakis found themselves trapped together in Xander's apartment with their young daughter Victoria, sleeping peacefully in the next room. The blackout made it impossible for Sarah to safely drive back to the Kyriakis mansion, forcing her to stay overnight with her estranged husband. What began as a practical safety decision quickly evolved into something far more intimate and consequential. As the lights went out across town, something ignited between these two separated spouses who still harbored deep feelings for each other, despite their troubled circumstances. The darkness provided a unique environment where old wounds could temporarily be forgotten, and the physical connection they once shared came flooding back with overwhelming intensity. Their passionate reunion during those blackout hours was filled with emotion, longing, and a desperate hope that perhaps they could find their way back to each other after months of painful separation. The timing of this intimate encounter couldn't have been more significant, as Sarah had just recently offered Xander a heartfelt apology that he frankly didn't deserve. This apology created an opening in Xander's carefully guarded heart, allowing him to let Sarah back in emotionally and physically. Little did either of them realize in that moment of passion that their blackout reunion would result in consequences that would bind them together in an entirely new way. The pregnancy bombshell. Several weeks after that fateful night, Sarah began experiencing unmistakable symptoms that led her to take a pregnancy test, and the results left her absolutely stunned. The realization that she was carrying Xander's second child hit her like a thunderbolt, forcing her to confront the complicated reality of their situation. Sarah had not been vigilant about birth control during their months of separation because she had no intention of being intimate with anyone. Her heart still belonged to Xander even when she believed the worst about him. The pregnancy confirmation sent Sarah's mind racing through a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, from joy at the thought of giving Victoria, a sibling, to terror about bringing another child into such an unstable relationship. She had spent months questioning whether she could ever trust Xander again after believing he had brutally assaulted his own brother Philip, and now she carried his child within her. The biological reality of this pregnancy meant that Xander would be permanently connected to her life regardless of whether their marriage could be salvaged. What made this discovery even more complicated was the timing. Sarah had only recently been convinced of Xander's supposed innocence regarding the Philip attack, which prompted her to apologize and open the door to reconciliation. Now pregnant with his child, she felt an overwhelming responsibility to ensure this baby would grow up with both parents present and involved, even if that meant overlooking certain uncomfortable truths. The protective maternal instinct was already kicking in, influencing her decision-making process in ways she hadn't anticipated. The lies Sarah has chosen to accept. The most heartbreaking aspect of Sarah's current situation is that she has made a conscious decision to accept Xander's web of lies in order to preserve the intact family unit she desperately wants for her children. Deep down, Sarah may harbor lingering suspicions about what really happened between Xander and Philip during that violent altercation earlier this year, but she has chosen to suppress those doubts for the sake of their growing family. Xander did indeed beat Philip to within an inch of his life in a brutal attack fueled by rage over business betrayals and family conflicts. Yet both Xander and Philip have been maintaining an elaborate charade to keep Sarah in the dark about the truth, with Philip actively lying to Sarah's face when she questioned him directly about the assault. Philip has his own reasons for keeping the secret. He genuinely wants his brother to find happiness with Sarah, and he's willing to play matchmaker even at the cost of honesty. Sarah has convinced herself that she was wrong to accuse Xander, that she jumped to conclusions and damaged their marriage with her unfounded suspicions. She carries guilt for not trusting her husband, never knowing that her initial instincts were actually completely correct. This false guilt has made her vulnerable to accepting Xander's version of events without question, creating a foundation of deception that their reconciliation is being built upon. Now that she's pregnant with their second child, Sarah has even more motivation to believe the comfortable lies rather than pursue the uncomfortable truth. She envisions Victoria growing up with a baby brother or sister in a home with both parents present, sharing family traditions like the annual Daniel Horton family tree trimming party. The fantasy of this intact nuclear family is so appealing that Sarah is willing to overlook warning signs and unanswered questions that might otherwise trouble her. Xander's anger management journey. To his credit, Xander has been making genuine efforts to address his violent tendencies through anger management therapy sessions with Dr. Marlena Evans. These sessions represent Xander acknowledging that he has serious issues with rage that have caused tremendous damage to his relationships and put people he loves in danger. Since beginning therapy with Marlena, Xander has demonstrated improved self-control and hasn't exploded in violent outbursts the way he did when he attacked Philip. Sarah has been encouraged by Xander's commitment to therapy and sees it as evidence that he's serious about changing his patterns of behavior. She's watched him work through difficult emotions in healthier ways, using the coping strategies Marlena has taught him rather than resorting to physical violence. This progress has reinforced Sarah's belief that reconciliation is possible and that Xander can become the stable partner and father she needs him to be. The therapy sessions have also opened the door for couples counseling, which Sarah and Xander tentatively agreed to pursue together. Sarah still believes that marriage counseling could help them work through their communication issues and rebuild the trust that was broken during their separation. She doesn't realize that true trust cannot be established when one partner is maintaining such a significant deception about a violent crime. Marlena may eventually encourage Xander to come clean about what really happened with Philip, recognizing that genuine healing cannot occur while secrets this large remain buried. The question is whether Xander will have the courage to confess the truth and risk losing everything he's worked to rebuild, or whether he'll continue down the path of deception that Philip has helped him maintain. Philip's role as unlikely matchmaker. Philip Kyriakis has found himself in the unexpected position of actively facilitating his brother's reconciliation with Sarah despite being the victim of Xander's brutal assault. This surprising turn of events speaks to Philip's complex character and his genuine desire to see his brother happy, even at personal cost. The two brothers have somehow managed to patch things up and are now working together at Titan in an uneasy alliance that requires both of them to pretend the violent attack never occurred. When Sarah directly confronted Philip and asked him point-blank whether Xander was responsible for putting him in the hospital, Philip looked her in the eyes and lied without hesitation. He told Sarah that Xander was not the one who nearly beat him to death, actively participating in the deception that has allowed Xander and Sarah's reconciliation to proceed. Philip's motivation for this lie stems from his observation that Sarah and Xander are genuinely happier when they're together, and he believes their marriage is worth saving. Philip has essentially appointed himself as a matchmaker for Xander and Sarah, working behind the scenes to create opportunities for them to reconnect. He encouraged the blackout sleepover that led to their passionate reunion and subsequent pregnancy, and he's been running interference to prevent Sarah from discovering evidence that might reveal the truth. In Philip's calculation, the happiness of his brother and sister-in-law outweighs his own right to see Xander face consequences for the assault. However, this conspiracy of silence between the two brothers creates a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. The truth about violent crimes rarely stays buried forever, and when Sarah inevitably discovers that both Xander and Philip have been lying to her face for months, the betrayal may be even worse than the original assault. Philip's good intentions could ultimately backfire spectacularly, destroying the very reconciliation he's worked so hard to facilitate. The foundation built on deception. The tragic irony of Sarah and Xander's current situation is that their reconciliation is progressing beautifully on the surface while resting on an utterly rotten foundation of lies and manipulation. They're making love, discussing their future, planning for their second child, and genuinely reconnecting emotionally. But it's all based on Sarah's false belief that Xander is innocent of the crime she originally accused him of committing. Sarah's undeserved apology to Xander was the catalyst that reopened his heart and allowed reconciliation to begin. But that apology should never have happened. She was actually right to believe Xander had attacked Philip, but she was gaslit by both brothers into doubting her own judgment. Now she carries guilt for falsely accusing her husband when she should instead be trusting her instincts about his capacity for violence. The pregnancy adds another layer of complexity to this already precarious situation. Sarah's decision to accept Xander's lies is now explicitly motivated by her desire to give their second baby an intact family with both parents present. She's making a calculated choice to prioritize family stability over uncomfortable truths, convincing herself that Xander's anger management progress means they can have a safe and healthy future together. But real safety and health in a relationship require honesty, and this relationship is drowning in deception. When Sarah eventually learns the truth, and she will, because secrets this big always surface eventually, she'll have to grapple not only with Xander's violence but with his willingness to let her apologize for being right, to accept her guilt for an accusation that was actually accurate. That betrayal may cut even deeper than the original assault. The holiday hope and long-term reality. Fans of the couple are expressing hope that Sarah and Xander will enjoy a genuine reunion by the holiday season, perhaps announcing the pregnancy during the traditional Daniel Horton family tree trimming celebration. There's something deeply appealing about the idea of this troubled couple finally finding their way back to each other, welcoming a new baby, and building the family life they've both dreamed of. The holidays would provide the perfect backdrop for a romantic reunion and pregnancy announcement that could bring joy to their entire extended family. Victoria would learn she's going to be a big sister, and the Kyriakis and Horton families could celebrate the next generation together. The image of Xander, Sarah, Victoria, and their newborn baby together as a complete family unit is undeniably heartwarming. However, the long-term reality of their situation is far more complicated than this holiday fantasy suggests. Sarah and Xander still have substantial work to do individually and as a couple before they can truly build a healthy marriage. Xander needs to continue his anger management therapy and address the violent impulses that led him to brutally attack his own brother. Sarah needs to develop stronger boundaries and learn to trust her own instincts rather than accepting lies that make her uncomfortable truths easier to bear. Most importantly, the truth about Philip's assault must eventually come to light for this couple to have any real chance at lasting happiness. As long as that massive lie sits at the center of their relationship, they're building on sand rather than solid rock. Marlena may be the key to finally breaking through Xander's resistance to confession, helping him understand that genuine love requires genuine honesty. The question facing Days of Our Lives viewers is whether Sarah and Xander can survive the truth when it finally emerges, or whether the deception will prove too great for their relationship to overcome. Sarah's pregnancy adds urgency and complexity to that question, as she'll have to decide whether to raise their children with a father who lied to her for months or break up the family unit she's worked so hard to preserve. The drama ahead promises to test both characters in profound ways as they navigate the consequences of choices both have made.